Hello everyone, welcome once again to the Hindu Explainer series. I am Kushagra Goel and very warm greetings from Doprep Tutorial. So yesterday, there was a big change that was brought into the COVID-19 vaccination policy. But before that, there was one very important doubt that was put up in the comments section, which was related to language in the Indian Constitution. All right. Now, there are a couple of things that need to be clarified. The first is part 17 of the Indian Constitution relates to official language, all right? And as per it, there is the official language of the Union is Hindi in Devanagari script, along with subclause 2, which provides for extension of English language for official purposes, all right? This article also provides for Commission and Committee of Parliament on official language, all right? Now, within this, more languages can be added, right? So if you are asked a question in the CLAT examination, what is the part that deal with language of the Union or the official language of the Union? It is part 17, all right? And the article will be Article 343. Similarly, different state governments are free to choose their own language, all right? Which is specified under Article 345, all right? Nevertheless, as per Article 344 and Article 351, which is for development of other languages along with it, all right, linguistic minorities, we have 8th schedule, all right. So within the 8th schedule, 22 other languages have also been added in the Constitution. So we have part 17, Article 343 and Article 345 to talk about official languages. Then we have the 8th schedule that have other languages that are recognized as per the Constitution. All right. So if you get a question, which is the official language of the Union, we will go by Article 343, which states Hindi and English. All right. But states under Article 345 are free to adopt any other language as recognized by the Constitution. If you are asked a question, which is the schedule that deals with languages, then the answer will be 8th schedule. All right. So now let's dive into the newspaper. So what has been the big change? So you all know we discussed the Supreme Court judgment about vaccination policy, wherein the court claimed that, see, this vaccination policy is not working. It is discriminatory in the sense that it creates a slabbing, all right? That one person is being treated at different levels, which is not justified by the state and under the Constitution. So now you need to have a uniform policy. All right. So the government has understood what the order meant and has made a course correction. Now, the policy will be in tune of what is there across the world, wherein the central government will procure the vaccines. The central government will then provide the vaccines. All right. So 75% of the vaccines will be there by the state. All right. And 25% supply will be by the private institutions. All right. Now, you all remember in the union budget, 35,000 crores had been allocated. The Supreme Court had also asked the union government, where is this money that you are spending? Why haven't you spent it? All right. So that has also been clarified now. All right. So we move on to the next news on the front page, which is about protest. Now, this is the protest to call back the administrator in Lakshadweep. Why is it important for us? It puts into importance what is happening in Lakshadweep, all right, and why is it relevant? So an administrator or a lieutenant governor is an appointee of the central government. The reason why there are protests happening in Lakshadweep is because of the new rules that have been brought in. One about the laws, that is a state which doesn't have that many crime, a Gunda Act has been passed, all right, and provisions related to the development of the state, wherein a developmental authority has been created, which can take away the land of the people as it deems fit. All right. So in response to both those laws, protests have been taking place. Okay. So we move on then to the other national news. In the other national news, nothing of real notes for us. But prior to that, so there has been an important judgment by the Madras High Court. The Madras High Court, a single judge bench, that is Justice N. Anand Venkatesan, passed an order for protection of the LGBTQIA plus community, that the central government should rope in NGOs, one, to provide to people assistance to re-educate them about their concerns, and also to rope in NGOs to ensure that they are not discriminated upon. All right. Apart from this, so why had this petition been heard, and what is the response to it? All right. So this was a writ petition filed by two young women who were saying that there was discrimination happening. Their parents were opposed to their relationship. So the court claimed that, see, this is something natural, and therefore people should not be discriminated upon, because if this happens, then it is a violation of the fundamental rights of such individual. All right. So this is the concern. This is part that, see, whatever be your sexual or gender preferences, the Constitution doesn't discriminate within which is re-upholding Article 15. All right. So therefore, this judgment becomes very important. It is one of the active one that actively recognizes the entire community, different sexual preferences, and wherein orders have been passed to ensure that sensitization programs are run across the country to ensure people are aware of their concerns. Then moving on the editorial section. So on the right hand side, connecting the dots to mitigate a third wave. This is what we need to do to prevention of a third wave. All right. So one, you need to determine related to how much it is spreading with each person, transmission, the duration, and you need to have immunization prior to that. All right. On the left hand side, high performing states with good schools can nudge others if they have the political will. All right. So this is in response to performance grading index that has been created, which measures the performance of each state and their education section. That this will create a healthy amount of competition within state governments. All right. Then moving on, cease the conflict and build the peace. With a section of young generation rejecting violence, Israel and Palestine must explore peaceful negotiations. So this is about rapprochement between the communities at Israel and Palestine. That, see, both the people are there to stay. It is important you recognize the human value of each other, and from that standpoint, look for negotiation for peace. But see, all of this is only possible when people actually want it to take place. All right. Unless there is a people's movement for it, the political will never be created. Then on the left hand side, fair wind, a good monsoon will aid agriculture. Now one of the few bright spots in the economy. Over the past 2 years, it has been the agriculture sector that has actually posted growth figures in the economy. Every other sector, whereas, had shrank in the country, and thus monsoon in India is important because that would continue the consistency of growth, because in India there is still a large scale amount of reliance on rains for the agricultural production. Then moving on towards a stronger mental health policy. This is about, so with COVID-19 we have recognized that, see, there is a large reason, there is a recognition of mental diseases and for handling of them, and this talks about the India's National Mental Health Policy of 2014 and a Rights-Based Mental Health Care Act of 2017. That, see, the first step before you can do anything is recognizing the problem, and then you can build it up from there. Then on the right hand side, all right, is the one that is more important for us. This is in relation to an incident that recently came up. All right. The Chinese ambassador in Bangladesh nudged Bangladesh to say that, see, if they don't listen to us, or if they move towards our enemies or those who oppose us, then there will be consequences. In response to that, Bangladesh foreign minister stated that, see, no country should tell us what we should be doing. We will do our own decisions. All right. This is in retaliation. Now, a pushback created to the wolf warrior diplomacy of China. We have discussed about wolf warrior diplomacy of China, wherein there is a siege mentality. All diplomats of China look or say anything or everything that is necessary to achieve their objectives of the Chinese Communist Party, and especially under Xi Jinping. No criticism, no admission of any lapse, and active push to other countries to follow or tag along the Chinese line, that if you don't follow, there will be consequences. So in that regard, a response of a South Asian country to say to China that, see, you do not have to tell us what is good for us. We know what is good for us. All right. So this is the balancing. Why is it important? Because see, over the time, India has lost a lot of space in South Asian countries to China, wherein the Chinese economy, through its investment project, that is the Belt and Road Initiative, has created inroads here. However, there is still some amount of pushback now against this mentality of China, which is important to block or stop the wheels of Chinese expansionism or influence. All right. This is to prevent a similar scenario that had happened with USSR, where countries of the Second World or the communist bloc used to follow everything that the USSR government's policy were. All right. So if we are to prevent a new Cold War, it is important that we nip it in the bud. All right. Then apart from this, students' safety first. We need to ensure safety of students before any push for examination is taking place. All right. Then moving on the other national news. So the news about Antigua to investigate Choksi's complaint. Mehul Choksi has now claimed that, see, I was actually kidnapped from Antigua and then taken to Dominica, because otherwise this is a plot to extradite me. So Antigua is now investigating whether there was actually an abduction that had taken place. If not, nevertheless, for us, this story is only relevant in relation to what the scenario of extradition and his role in the PNB scam is. All right. Then moving on, draft rules for live streaming of court proceedings. So draft court live streaming, that is, all of us can watch what is happening at the Supreme Court and at different high courts. This has been called as an extension of right to information and the right to justice. All right. That right to access to justice is guaranteed under Article 21, and live court proceedings are a extension of this. All right. So in that regard, what all do we need to know? One, who is heading the E committee of the Supreme Court? Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. The new rules have been brought in. All right. And this is in part to the National Policy and Action Plan for Implementation of Information and Communication Technology in Judiciary. This was recently also pointed out by the Chief Justice of India, that is N.V. Ramana. All right. Now, different high courts will give in their submissions, suggestions, feedback about what needs to be amended with the rules. All right. So live streaming of court proceedings is part of Article 21. Or you can now be asked, because this has been actively claimed by the judiciary itself, what is it related to? It is related to access to justice. All right. And under what article? Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. All right. Then apart from this, moving on, the national news, nothing of real note for us. So we move on to the international news. So China hosts ASEAN's foreign ministers. This is part of their China ASEAN summit, similar to what we have as India ASEAN summit. All right. Then the most important news on the newspaper is the UNGA election. All right. Each year, all the members of the UNGA elect their president. For the first time this year, Maldives has won the UNGA election, and India had been the one who had been doing the diplomatic back channel talks to ensure that Maldives won it. All right. So who is going to be the new UNGA president? It will be Abdullah Shahid of Maldives. All right. It is their first time as chairman of the UNGA. All right. He defeated the candidate from Afghanistan governments. All right. the ex-foreign minister there. For India, this is a huge diplomatic victory because China and other countries of the region had supported the candidature of Afghanistan candidate. All right. He'll be the president of the 76th General Assembly. All right. Of the 77th General Assembly, his candidature was announced during this 76th General Assembly. All right. So on that note, this is one important news. It can be asked. It is part of India Maldives diplomacy also. And one very direct question: who has recently won the UNG election? All right. Which country recently got elected or got the post of UNGA president? Abdullah Shahid of Maldives. Then on the left hand side, a drug finally has been approved for Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a brain disease, a chronic brain disease wherein it is seen that brain disintegrates over time period. For this, a new drug has been approved. All right, Aduhelm is seen as a drug that can have protection against disintegration of the brain. All right. So in case a medical related question comes, just in case, all right. So you all now know the answer. Apart from this, on the sporting side and economics page, nothing of real note for us. All right. So on that note, I'll conclude in today's newspaper. Two things very, very important. All right. One is related to live streaming at courts. This is something that has been part in the news. All right. And seen as an extension of information and right to access of justice. So very important there. Apart from this, the UNGA election. So these two news stand out in today's newspaper. Very important from constitution and legal perspective. On that note, thank you so much and I will see you all tomorrow.